Hey, we got somebody here. Looks like John, if I remember your name right. I can't seem to hear. Oh, looks like your microphone is muted. Actually, you can probably hear me okay, right, John? It's just that I can't hear you, I think. I wonder if I have to unmute your microphone since I have the control panel. Nope, doesn't look like I can do that. That's all right. Okay, cool. Just making sure that it's not just a technical issue or something. Let's hang on and see if maybe one or two more people come in. Are you able to hear me okay, though? It's coming through all right? Cool. All right, so this is halfway. Seems like last time when I tested this was Carl, maybe I sent the actual Hangouts link. That's what I sent now instead of the Hangouts on air link. Kind of complicated. But hopefully the way this works, we'll be able to get everybody in and able to chat and even share their own projects if they want to midway. I looked into Twitch a bunch, and it just seems more geared towards showing or talking at people instead of with them, I guess. Let's hang on just a bit and see if anybody else comes in still. Sharing the link on Facebook as well to make sure they have that. I guess it's a little bit of a barrier that people are going to have a Google account, but that seems like something most people probably have. Give me maybe just another 5 minutes or so. We'll see if anybody else jumps in. So have you, John, been a long-time user of ProBuilder or just starting out with it? Anything specific maybe I can start out with? Most people have one, but no one uses theirs, huh? Yeah, Google Plus. Okay, cool. Yeah, ProBuilder Basic we're pretty happy with. I think it's done well to give people something they can use without having to pay and get people used to the idea. I think it's new to people in Unity. Maybe for you, actually, that's a good question. Did you come from other engines, or were you used to having some sort of building tool? Cool. Yeah, I started out with, I guess it was Unreal 3 back then, and Source, of course, Hammer stuff. Couldn't get used to working in Unity without any kind of building tools, even just basic PSP stuff it needed. All right, well, looks like we've got one person viewing, so they must be watching just the plain stream. 2 people viewing just the regular stream. Looks like they're not joining into the Hangout. For those people, if you look at the page, the actual Google Plus page for this event, there's going to be a link that I posted there that will tell you exactly where to go, a link to this Hangout, if you'd like to actually be able to take part instead of just watching on the video. Sorry, let me just take another minute or so and see if they join in. Since it looks like it's mostly just you, John, and maybe someone else passively viewing, my plan was to go through all the fundamentals bit by bit. But if it's just one person, then go ahead and let me know something you'd like me to focus on, and I can work through that for the full hour or 15 minutes or half hour, whatever we want to do. Yeah, let me know what you'd like me to focus on, or I can just go through the basic fundamentals and general lesson plan like that. I just don't want to bore you, and if I can do something specific, yeah, very special. Probably burnt the opportunity last time. We had lots of people showing up, and then nothing worked. Yeah, just let me know what you'd like me to concentrate on, or just go through the general stuff. That'd be kind of boring, though. Okay, yeah, UVs. That's a good one to work with. Okay, perfect. That's actually a pretty complex one, but it's good. Let me go ahead and just announce, since that's one that more people might want to actually look into once they hear what's going on. I'm going to let people know on Twitter and Facebook real quick that we're going to be doing that. Give me 2 seconds. Typing, as you can hear, probably. All right. People are aware at least. All right. Sorry, let me read your other comments there. I wish you would ping me or something. Yeah, building UVs after scaling, transforming something. Okay. Yeah, let me just start from the basics and I'll move up towards that, and then let me know as I'm going if there's something that you want me to jump back to. All right. So, oops, more people answering over here. Yeah, this is why I should definitely set an exact start time so we can actually start with people. Now I feel like I have to wait a little bit as they come in. That's all right. I think people can kind of catch up at this point. 2 viewers, 1 person in the chat. All right, just a quick note to the 2 viewers right now. Just make sure you can join into the Hangout. I post that link on on Twitter and Facebook, and that way you're able to actually talk and such. So again, that link is right there on Twitter. Should take you directly into this Hangout. Anybody can, and just make sure your mic is working, then you can chat. So we're going to do the UV stuff. So much for the fundamentals, I guess. We'll just jump right to this. We'll create a ProBuilder object, Control K, and just a basic cube, and we'll UV this just to show the really basic stuff, and we'll get into something more complex. Is everybody seeing the screen okay? If you can drop some sort of mention. I guess you'd have to be in the chat in order to mention it. John, you're able to see the screen okay? The Unity screen there with the cube? Cool. Okay, so John can see it. Everybody else is outside of the Hangout, so they're not able to directly interact. So one more reason that everybody should jump in if they can. All it takes is Gmail account. Doesn't even have to be Google Plus, as far as I know. All right, so taking off of this, we'll assume everybody can keep track. Otherwise, again, jump into the Hangout with that link that we posted. So we have our cube and we want to unwrap this in some fancy way. You start by clicking on the UV editor up here in the tool panel, of course. Quick note, with the panel here, you can right click and change it to icon mode. So just in case you're seeing these icons and I've got something strange going on with a not quite released version of ProBuilder here. So my icons are a little funny looking. We have the material editor. If you hover over it, it'll show the, sorry, not material editor, the UV editor. It'll tell you what it is and some info on it. I'm going to switch this back to the text mode, though, so it's a little more obvious what I'm clicking on and using while I'm doing it in these tutorials. So we click on UV editor and open that up. And you can use this in a couple of ways. The really simplest way is to ignore everything that's here in this UV window. And something we're considering to make this basically break these apart. So you have just a flat basic texturing mode and the full UV editing. So let's say you wanted to move this texture around, edit the UVs in a simple way. Up in the UV editor, there's a button here that shows the 3 arrows. And when you hover over it, it also says, allows you to move the UVs in the scene. So once that's on, I can click on a face and actually move it, or move its texture or UVs around. You can see on the right the actual UVs moving here. And I can move these for the same effect. Kind of see how that works there. I can also scale it, so set the tiling and rotate it. So this lets you do it right in the scene view without having to do too much work. Once you have these kind of going all over the place and no longer connecting, a quick way to bring them back together is just to select any one. Let's say this side face that we're working with here. Select the face that's where you want it to be, or the textures. Just hold Control and start clicking from one face to the next, and it'll do the auto stitch. And again, you can look and see in the UV window here exactly what it's doing. So it's building out these UVs like that. Let me check back in on this Hangout. Hey, we got one more person. Oh, you can't see the UV window. Shoot, okay. Must be because it's popping up as a floating window. That's good to know. Thanks. How about now? Hey, I got somebody audio. Must be because it's popping up. Reggie, hey Stig.
Hey, how's it going?
Are you guys able to see that UV window now that it's in docked mode this here? Hey, I got somebody audio. Must be because it's Reggie, hey Stig.
Hey, how's it going?
Are you guys able to see that UV window now that it's in docked mode this here? Oops, I've got this going on.
I can see it, but it's kind of hard to really make out the details.
Are you guys able to see that UV window now that it's in docked mode this here? Oops, I've got this going on.
I can see it, but it's kind of hard to really make out.
1 second while I'm trying to figure out where this echo is coming from. Oh, I wonder if, let's see, where this echo is coming from. Could just be one of the, one of the mics. Okay, guys, do you hear me okay here? Uh-oh, hello? Did the mic just cut off?
Yeah, I muted my mic for a second to see if it was me.
Mic just cut off? Oh, okay. Yeah, now I hear the echo. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's why I'm wearing headphones. I didn't want it to bounce back. Okay, so you guys said you can see the panel now. I can actually restart that demonstration, and I didn't realize I was working in the blind. Real quick though, so since we have a few more people on here, we're just going over the UV editing stuff. I assume, are you guys all pretty new to ProBuilder, or are there, have you guys been using it for a while, just so I can check what levels everyone's at? Okay, cool. I see Stick Design says you don't have it yet, thinking of it. Have you picked up the basic version for free so you can kind of follow along with the geometry stuff? That might help. Same thing for anybody else who hasn't bought it yet but is just kind of looking into it. With the UV stuff, that won't be part of basic. Okay, cool, thanks. But you can definitely then use basic to follow along on geometry things. Reggie, are you able to hear me okay still? Can't tell. Yep, I think I see you typing. I'm just trying to check if the lag is off. Okay, great, thanks. Thanks for putting up with this, guys. Trying to figure out how to make this work best for a real class. Okay, so you guys can see the UV editor now. Awesome. Let me just restart that. As I was saying, delete this, create something new. So as I was saying again, UV editor, click up there, pops this open. Actually, I just want to ask also, how many of you guys have any experience using a UV editor in 3D Max or something? None at all, probably, or some use in there? Stig says a lot, okay. John says yes. Everything I say gets repeated several times. Let's see, I'm working off a headset. Okay, good to know you've used Blender. Lucid, do you say the sound is okay? Is it Reggie, or you say you have double up? John says it's good. Reggie, do you have maybe the Hangout open and also the Google Plus window in your browser? Okay, yeah, that was probably it. I had that at first, and it messed me up pretty good. Okay, so let's see. Let me go back and look at that. So actually, all you guys, it sounds like, have experience with using the UVs already. So we don't have to worry about the details of that. I'll show you guys how it works in ProBuilder then. All right. So once again, basic cube, and you have the window open here at the UV editor. As I was saying, you can ignore most of this if you want to. And the simplest way to move and edit your textures is just to click on this button up top here. Again, as you hover over it, it'll show that tooltip. This allows you to edit using handles in the scene view. So if you have just a brick wall or something you need to move around, you can just move it like that. Or use Unity's built-in scale tool. And I'm just using the keyboard shortcuts. Sorry, I should get used to talking about that more. You can click on the tool icons on the top that Unity has, or you can just use W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. So those are, again, just the basic Unity shortcuts and the Unity handles. We're trying to keep everything real simple. And that way you can do this without having to even look at this UV editor at all, if it's just pretty simple edits you need to make. All right, don't see any complaints there. I'll keep going. First time with this, guys. Seeing how it's going. Okay, so along the same lines, if you're just moving things around, but you want to be able to do a little bit more precisely, you've got this window over here, which we admit is a little bit clunky at the moment. It's got a bit of a scroll bar and some things we need to clean up. But if you wanted to move this, any of these textures, I'll make this face a bit larger. Also, if you want to actually edit the geometry, make sure you click back on this button up here. Hopefully you guys can see that okay in the video. Again, the use scene handles button. Make sure that's grayed out, and then you'll be able to edit geometry again. So I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger so we can see the effects a bit better on this. So with this face selected, and I just want to edit it directly, over here under the Actions panel, you have the transform for it, which would be you can set an exact offset, so I can just type in 0, 0. It's going to zero it out. Or you can move it here, either by scrolling or typing in an exact number if you want it to be off by an exact amount or something. Whole numbers won't make much of a difference there. You can use the rotation here, of course, too, and then the scale or tiling is here as well. So you've got the controls there, and this is all using the auto mode. I'm not very good yet at doing these things in real time. It's always easier in a tutorial when I can record it. So, as I should have explained before, there's two modes for ProBuilder's UVs. There's auto and manual, and that's to make it simpler for people who aren't doing too much with it, but also so that you can get in there and really work in it like Blender and Max with the UVs. So in auto mode, as you've seen, as I move things around, these UVs are mostly just taking care of themselves. They don't get stretched and such. They just kind of work. When you extrude, they'll break at the extrude line. That's something we're thinking about changing, maybe make everything world UVs, but for now it generally works better. But in general, the auto UVs will take care of themselves. Just make some stuff here. So if you want to go a little bit further, you can change these into manual UVs. So we have an object here right now that, actually, if I maybe make this just a little bit more complex. If this is something that I wanted to unwrap and the UVs, auto UVs aren't really going to handle it all the way, I can select either individual faces or everything. In this case, I'll grab it all and click on Convert to Manual, and then we can start editing these directly with the UV editor here, which is usually the best way to go once you get into something a bit more complex. And we've added some tools to make this really simple. Let me check back in the chat real quick and see if anybody has questions here. Oh no, you guys still can't see that window? I thought we had made sure it was visible. So nobody can see that window at all, the UV window? I'll have to do this a different way. Okay. Yeah, that's why I really was hoping for audio to work, but I guess that's not perfect. Let me screen share just my entire screen. And that's going to mirror backward forever there. Okay, so now you guys should be able to see the UV window here. All right, okay. That'll be a little clunky. Looks like I'll just need to set up I think I have a separate laptop or something I can use to follow along on chat without popping this open every once in a while. Okay, so it sounds like you guys are all following along okay. You want me to just continue here, or should I go back over that since you weren't able to see anything? I think it's only about to get complex now with the UV stuff. So it's probably okay. Just send me a message if anyone wants me to stop. Wait a few seconds. All right, looks like we're good to go. Okay, so now that people can actually see it, good timing, we have the UV window here. And I'm going to do a basic unwrap on this. So a couple flaws that are going on. Obviously, my texture here isn't continuing across perfectly. It's not. I mean, it's not tiling to the next one. And we've got to connect some of these, especially if I'll actually move this around a bit more. So moving this up, these textures are getting kind of stretched here. They're not an exact square as they ought to be. So usually the way I like to do it is number one, just be really lazy. Select everything, double click on a face, and click on box under project UVs. And that's going to do a nice box unwrap for everything. And that'll generally work pretty well. Of course, on a non-flat face in the X, Y, or Z, it's going to end up with a bit of stretching like this face here. But overall, hopefully it's coming through in the video well. The box unwrap is a really good way, at least to start with, so now you've got a pretty good place to start. And then here in the UV editor, you're going to see what that's actually created. So you can click on any face, and it's going to also select it on the geometry. And the same happens if you click on geometry, it'll select it here, and you can go ahead and move it around here. Or again, move it right around here using that tool. But we want to fix up some things in this and get a little more complex. Check my chat again. Okay, all good. Definitely need a better system there. Okay. So these right now aren't fully stitched together. They're moving around separately from each other. And also, again, we've got this stretching up here in some things. So a way to edit this is we can just select the faces and do some welds on these. So if I know exactly which ones I want to weld together, for example, these of course should be welded, I can just drag select, right click, oops, sorry, not right click, and click on weld and put them together. Now if I move that face, it's going to move the others with it that it's attached to. Obviously that's not really ideal, just demoing it, because then of course you get this stretching texture here. But it's holding them together. Another way, probably I think the best way is to use the auto stitch feature. So select a face and just hold Control and start clicking on adjacent faces. And each time you click on a face, it will select it and then stitch it to that face. This is also great because it'll make sure you get a proper unwrap. So this is now an exact square here instead of being a little bit stretched out before. And it lets you choose exactly how the UVs are laid out. So let me go ahead and select this section. If you have a group of UVs that you have stitched together, you can use the select island to select that section and move it apart from the rest just so it's a little easier to see. Let's say we're working on all these up here. I just want to move these to the side because I don't really care what they are. And then I can bring this back up into the center-ish. So it's a bit like UE4's alignment tool with BSP. Yeah, I think it's like that. I haven't really used that recently. I know it's something like what Hammer had. That's originally what we were trying to do in Hammer or the source engine. You can control or control-shift-click, I think, and it continues the UVs along. And it's basically that. Just continues the UVs, which, ironically, a bit of trivia, that's what originally what I brought on Carl for long ago, and it never got really fully implemented all the way till pretty recently, actually. But now we have it, along with a ton of other great stuff. Okay, so clearly I need to put myself together a better lesson plan for this, but we'll just keep going along and hopefully showing useful things. So I'm stitching these UVs together, and as I'm moving this around here, obviously you can see the textures moving on the object, but you probably want to snap this a little better. So a couple options you have is you can actually move the pivot of this object so that you can snap it better. Just hold Shift, or actually just right-click on the pivot, and now I can start to move that. And this is the pivot of the UVs, not of the object itself. So I can move that and place it anywhere. And that makes it a little easier to rotate around that point or anything like that. Better, though, is to hold Control, and then while you're moving that pivot, it's going to snap to the UV grid. Or even better, hold Shift, and it'll snap to points on the UVs. So Shift and right-click, and while I'm moving or dragging that around, the pivot is snapping to exact points. So this is great for if I want to maybe set this exactly onto the corner here. So now I can just hold Control and left-click, and I can snap it right onto the corner of that. So I know that my UV is starting right there at the corner. Or if I wanted the UV to start somewhere else, hold Shift and left-click, and I'm dragging that around, snapping it to the points. So maybe I want to start right here at sort of the, looks like the neck of this object. and then I can snap it down to here. So now I've made that the corner that I'm snapping to, which is right here. And again, if you need to check on a point to make sure you're looking at the right spot, you can just switch to vertex or even face or anything. Click on a vertex, and of course it's going to be matched in the UV view, so you can see what is this vertex right here. It's going to show up. You can even just hit F on the keyboard and it'll zoom into that vertex, because it's pretty easy to get lost when you're trying to figure out which UVs. Okay, everybody good so far? Just making sure things still coming through all right. Send me a wait, and I'll wait. Otherwise, I'll keep moving. All right, sounds good. Okay, so we've got the obvious work here, stitching these together. I'm still just holding control and clicking, putting them together. Then we get to a little more complex situation down here where I have two options, and these are going to overlap. So I can hold control from this side and click on here, and it's going to build out this face. So that's right here. And if I choose this face, hold control and click, now it's going to add in, as it should, the UVs here. But of course now we have these overlapping faces, which in geometry don't, because we have 3 dimensions, but with UVs we only have 2 dimensions, so they're going to overlap. So a couple options: you can just let them overlap, and if that doesn't matter, that's fine. In a case like this, or if this were some sort of brick wall or whatever, that'd probably be just fine. However, if you have a real exact UV map that you're aligning things to, I'm going to write that down for myself. I should have built one so I can make this more obvious. But if that were the case, then you couldn't have these overlapping UVs. You're going to have to do something about it. So you have to get in and do some manual editing. In this case, we probably want to do, not the way we want to do, but what we could do is just to take this UV here, pull it over, and take this one and bring it over. So what I've done is just made these sort of broken so I can fit them better. And again, this probably wouldn't be ideal unless you had a texture that really didn't matter if it's stretched. But this way you're making sure that you're not having any overlaps. Again, note to myself to find a better example for this. Then you also want to make sure that you just weld those UVs together there, so they're one single. And now if I'm moving a face, those are both moving together. All right. What other tricks we got here? The planar unwrap, actually, I didn't mention. If you have something that, maybe a good way to do this also, something that you don't want to put the effort into, maybe it's a little bit of a strange, I'll muck up this geometry a bit, make it more useful for this. So you've got something a bit more, I don't know, organic. Oops. Let's see if I can break things. Good enough here. So in order to unwrap this with a good set of UVs, you could use the auto stitch, but it's going to end up with more of these overlapping sections, and box isn't really going to work properly on it, especially if it goes further around. So you can select a couple of faces and just click on planar, and it's going to stuff them all down into one, as if they're on one plane. So it gets just a normal, an average plane, and then just takes care of it. So you can see all the UVs in here, or the texture is lining up real nice. And this works really well if you have something, like I was saying, that's semi-organic, or just is a little harder to work with, but is pretty close to on a single plane. You don't want to redo it once you... I'm sorry, I'm not mentioning that properly. So of course, when you're using the manual UVs, it's not in auto mode, and things aren't taking care of themselves. So as you move stuff around, the UVs are going to stretch and such. So if you're using manual UVs, you just got to keep in mind that they are manual, and you're going to have to update them if you're editing. So they're usually used when you're further on towards a final art level or something that's not being edited much. So in this case, planar doesn't work too well because we've stretched that out so much. You could just click on box, and it's working somewhat, but it's kind of missing this spot over here. So you'd have to do it manually. Using the Control-Shift method probably is actually the simplest. That does a fairly okay job. That's bad geometry anyway. Let's see if we have anybody new here. Okay. All right, guys. Ooh, I feel the pressure. Definitely more used to doing tutorial videos without anybody watching over my shoulder. Okay, so I've made a bunch of weird geometry that doesn't make any sense. What more can we do here to kind of show this a bit better? Obviously, there's a few more tools off to the side here that I want to get into just boring technical stuff. You can split UVs that have been welded together just by clicking on the split UVs, and that way these are now separate. You can pull them apart, edit them separately if you need to. Better actually, back on the topic where I was saying that once you've edited these in manual mode, they now have to be taken care of by you. You can change that. Just select any of the faces that you'd like to move back into auto and just click up here where it says convert to auto. And now they'll do their best to keep the UVs that you've set. Sometimes they'll change just a little bit so the auto can take care of it. But now that I've done that, and I can do it on just the faces that I want, now the automatic UVs are taking care of it. So even with those semi-complex setup, it can't keep them stitched, but it can keep it with a generally good UV setup instead of before. I convert these back to manual. In manual mode, of course, they're just going to get stretched as you move things around, stretched or squished. So at any point, you can do that. You can convert any UVs between manual or auto if you need to change how they're being edited. Let's see, other things with this. Not a lot of people use this, I think, but we have a render UV template. So if you've built up, I'll just re-box map this whole thing actually. Convert back to manual, click on box, and I've got something a little more sane. If you've built, let's pretend this is a real exact UV setup. And now you want to paint on this in Photoshop. You can set it up however you like. Click on Render UV Template, set a couple settings here, and click on Save. And I'll call this something and stick it to the desktop maybe. Now I have a save of that. Let's hope there's nothing too embarrassing on my desktop as I open this up. So this will allow you to paint over top of it in Photoshop. It's something that you might be used to if you've already been doing this in Blender and Max and such. So I can actually bring this into Photoshop probably. Actually, I don't want to do it that way. So I just drag this into Photoshop, and I have it open here. Just check the chat. So in Photoshop, then, of course, you do your texturing. So I could, I don't know, draw some stuff and make my beautiful texture map. Save it, and then reapply that in ProBuilder somewhere. There we go. Just create a material for that. Actually, do it the easier way. Pretty sure Unity will let me just drag and drop that right onto here. Oh, I hear somebody's mic audio for a second. So that should be working. Yep, there we go. So there's the beautiful texture map that we've created. Obviously, you'll do better than that. All right, guys, I know I'm rambling a bit. Definitely not used to this part. So don't keep just hitting on random parts of the UV editor here as I panic. What would you guys like me to focus on in the UV editor, or to look at some other items? Go ahead and speak out. Modern art masterpiece. Yes, it almost is. Let me know in chat or audio. Is there something that I should focus on, a little something to test? Or if anybody wants to share something of their own project out, you can share it on the Hangout, and I can jump in there and kind of show you how I might work with it. That's okay too. Got a request for level design, watching how you go about creating walls, doors, etc. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Anything else? So I can queue up some items. It's not bad for a starter presentation, I guess. It's going all right. Thanks, Marcel. Marcel, probably. Sorry. Rhodes. Okay. Reggie. Yeah, we probably seem to do things quicker just because it's easy since we built the parts. So we're cheating in that way, you might say. Always easier that way. Okay, so yeah, this might be something to do in 3D packages. Is there any way to bevel edges? So many people asking that. Yes, it's coming. That is a feature that's working in some pre-release versions. It's I don't think I have it in this one I'm working with right now. But yep, we'll have bevel and chamfer, so you can add multiple edges, not just one single bevel. That's coming in 2.5.1, I believe. Carl's got that coming together, and that's going to be great. So you can, like right now, let me just delete. As beautiful as this is, I'll just delete that. Just a quick demo of this, so it makes sense. Everybody probably knows. But obviously, beveling right now, you kind of have to do it bit by bit like that to get a custom bevel. But it's coming up where you'll be able to just select all the edges you want to bevel and hit the tool that says bevel, and boom, it'll be done. It'll look just like this, or even adding multiple loops through, so you can have a bit of a curved edge without having to do it like that. So that's coming pretty soon. Oh, that's a pretty good demo, I guess, right there of how to bevel the hard way, doing it on your own. Have you plans for simple runtime editor near future? It's coming up. What we've figured out with that is we needed to have a base, a complete runtime base for everything, basically. Unity inside Unity, really. Unity in a game. So that's what Giles has become, our generic in-game level editing system, Giles. And we have a bit of info on that out and about. I don't think it's up on our page yet, but it will be pretty soon. We're building just a complete base so anybody can import this tool called Giles into their game and enable their players to have a full map editor experience, again, kind of like just Unity inside their game, with a lot of tools so the game developer can simplify it so that their game players aren't getting lost in all the stuff that Unity has, of course. They can, like in old school games, just kind of, you had the map editor for Warcraft and such, right? So it'll be the same way. You can just jump in and easily snap together some prefab parts, drop in where your player's going to start with some nice icons and where some pickups are and death zones or whatever, spike traps. And then hit save, send it out to your community, and then people are creating maps for your game, which I think is going to be huge. And then once we have that base built, not even necessarily commercial and ready, but built, then we start building ProBuilder RT on top of it. Let me jump back a second. Let's see, Reggie, the pipe. Trying to make a pipe with bends. Yeah, a pipe with bends is another good thing to demonstrate. What am I forgetting? Okay, so up above was doing level design stuff. Maybe I'll skip that just for now and we'll look at more direct things. Maybe if I have time later, but that'll be a more general thing that I should actually do a full talk on. But making pipes is a good specific one, definitely. I'll take that in a second. Marcel says design of architecture and such. Yeah, of course. I mean, definitely in Unity or even in-game, that'd be one of the great things for PBRT, for people to build it up sort of even in a web browser or whatnot. Yep. So let me do a quick pipe demo. That's something that we had before. And take a quick look at this, actually. First, I'm going to jump around 1 second. This makes a good use for the smoothing groups thing. I know some people are probably already aware of this, but a lot of people aren't necessarily. So this item looks faceted. We've got these chunks. It's more visible from this angle, I think. And you can make it look smooth real quick just by selecting the faces you want to smooth together. click on the smoothing tool, and we use groups just like 3D Studio Max does. I kind of want to move to using setting hard edges in the future, or a mix actually of that and this. But for now, you select the faces and just click on a smoothing group. And as you can see there now, they smooth together. So instead of Unity seeing that as two separate faces, or whatever the technical explanation is, Carl would know better than me, it's now smoothed over. And we can go even further by setting all of these into a single group. So now it smooths all the way down. So even though you just have a few polys there, it looks really nice and smooth. And then here on the other side, we can do the same thing, but if we give it a separate smoothing group, so number 2, now those will all smooth together, but they're not going to smooth into this side, which would look really bad because, I'll do that here. So if I actually set those as 1, it actually doesn't look too bad, I guess. But it's going to be attempting to smooth across a 90-degree face, and that's generally not going to look good. It's kind of like trying to make a circle out of a square. So you're best off just keeping that as a separate one. So anyway, smoothing groups, those are great. I don't think a lot of people use them, but they're really, really handy. Check the chat. Okay, cool. All right, so on to making some sort of pipes. Let's see. Delete our beautiful beveled cube. So I think the easiest way to do pipes is to use a torus shape, actually. Control-Shift-K to open up the shape selector. Go down to torus. And it's pretty obvious it's halfway there already. And usually the best way is just set like a horizontal circumference to whatever degree you really need. So the easiest would probably be a 90-degree pipe. And then set how many rows and columns you need in it. And keep this a little lower poly so it's not going too far. And click on Build. And there's the start to your pipe, or a corner if you needed it. And then you could pretty quickly just grab these edges. One thing too, in that upcoming 2.5.1, you can hit Alt-L and it will loop around the outside edge, which currently loops only work on inside edges like that. Again, that's just hitting Alt-L, or you can click on Select Edge Loop here. But coming up 2.5.1, you'll be able to actually loop around the outside. In this case, though, we'll have to kind of drag select annoyingly. And let's try that again. We got too many, too few. Probably best to go into an ISO perspective up top. There we go. Oh, come on. Okay. Clearly some reasons we need to add that in. Okay. So you've got the loop. You can just hold Shift and then pull that out. Start building out your pipe. Control-D to duplicate that. Bring it around, and if you're using ProGrids, it'll be pretty quick to snap together. Otherwise, hold V and you can snap from vertex to vertex. And there you're building it out. Probably would want to select these verts and hit on the Set Pivot button so that now the pivot is at the center of that pipe. So I can just kind of rotate it around to set it however direction I want and keep on building. This here too is a pretty good chance to demonstrate using that UV editor again. Obviously these UVs aren't what we want. I can select a face here and hold Control and start stitching these together. Then I'll just go all the way around. Just stitching them together like this. Oops, I missed one, huh? There we go. And actually, once again, and maybe this is something we should add in, that should be all smooth together. Probably that should do it automatically in the future. Go to my smoothing groups, make sure those are set as 1. And that's looking more like a pipe. These are still separate objects, these two. Oops, in element mode. These are separate objects. I just want to go ahead and merge them together, probably, using the Merge Objects tool. You can use Merge Save to save the old ones in the background. Usually, not necessary unless you know you might want to go back to it. Actually, I'll do that in this case, just to show you. So now those two originals are here. They're just hidden. You can see they're grayed out by Unity. So in case I realized, oh shoot, I really didn't want to merge this into one object, I can still re-enable these two. and just delete this one, and I have the backups basically. So that's how I would go about creating pipes and such. Let's see what's popped up on chat there. Oh yeah, the partial torus is great. That came around recently while I was building some smooth stuff that was pretty tricky to create, and then luckily Carl was able to create that real quickly to add in. All right, so that would be pipes. What else we got for specific requests? I think that works pretty well, actually, just going by specific requests. What would you guys like me to show? Actually, John, I think originally you had asked me, scroll back up here, how to rebuild UVs after scaling, transforming something. Do you want to tell me a bit more exactly what you're looking for there, and I can go ahead and do that, since you actually asked that originally. Also, thanks to everybody who's joined up here. Looks like there's quite a few people jumped in. Feel free to jump in at any time. Let me know if you have a question or need something specifically addressed. Okay, cool. I already covered it. All right. Yeah, I hope that wasn't too random as I was going through that. Yep. Any other specific requests? Oh, yeah, the road. Sorry, I forgot about that. Stig, you did mention this. And Reggie also says, problem in a level I've made where I need to extrude part of one object to another object. Couldn't get it to snap. Okay, let me take a look at that after I look at this road. Road with bends and stuff. Roads are going to be not exactly ProBuilder's forte. Anything real organic can be kind of tricky. Let me think about this. Yeah, generally, if you're building a road, I know there's a lot of really good, I hate to say it, but really good road tools on Unity. Otherwise, I would build sort of a chunky version of it first, like if this were where I want my racetrack to go or something, and I'm just building this out real basic, right? So I'm going to build like a almost a gridded version of it first. So this would be a terrible racetrack. Everyone would fly off that corner, but that's all right. There's a good reason I should have been using ProGrids. I'm going to have a hard time reconnecting these. Do I have ProGrids? Oh, I do in here. Okay, so this is a pretty good demonstration of why I should be using ProGrids. With this off right now, this would be a real pain to reconnect these two ends. Just real quick, if I turn this back on though, select these ends, make sure my grids aren't too high. We'll go at 0.125, and that should be on. Yep, okay. And I'm going to snap this more or less directly onto that real quick and complete this, and then we'll look at how to make this a little more curvy. So there with ProGrids on, I can see that I'm connecting these exactly, and I'm not worried about it. All right, beautiful. Okay. So we've connected our racetrack, or whatever it might be, and actually a good opportunity here. Obviously on the inside, I've brought these two together, but there's still these faces in here that we need to do something with. So just make sure you select those two and hit backspace to delete. And then let's pull this back together. And make sure you weld up these verts, because currently they're not attached. So just drag select. You can do one at a time and use a collapse function, but the easiest, since they're right at each other's exact position, is just to use the weld tool. So Alt-V, and that'll weld them together. Or you can use the tool here in the panel. All right, so we've got our racetrack, and we want to make it somewhat curved. Again, I'm going to say you're probably better off using a road tool or something from the asset store. Maybe it's something we should make. Actually, I'm pretty sure Carl has his own tool that's even free on the asset store for tools, and I think it's called Just Another Road Tool or something like that. So maybe check that out. But what I would do to start building this is, number one, I'm going to actually clean up how I did some of this. When I was building this originally, and maybe this is just good to go through anyway, is I built it using these square ends instead of properly, there's a carpentry term for this or something, I forget. But these ends really should have been at they should have a diagonal connection so that I can throw loops through. For example, right now, if I hit select loop, or sorry, I meant ring, it's going to ring around this way, which it shouldn't actually do. We want it to ring all the way around the track, so I can start adding more geometry to this to make it prettier. So because I was lazy, I got to fix this up here. And I'm going to grab all of these verts at once and just click on the push to grid to make sure all my verts are stuck to a grid properly. Now I can just jump these over. I'm holding V to snap, jump them over, and I'm going to collapse. So this is what each of these should have been. I'll just do a couple of these, not all of them, so it'll be a little more, so it won't take forever. Oops. Sorry, I meant to make the camera move around so much. Good lesson on doing things right the first time. Seeing the verts. Is that making sense so far? Since I don't see questions popping in there. Yeah, bevel tool would be nice to add to the edges of this. I'll just stick with this actually. It'll be obvious enough from here. So basically you want to make this not look quite so chunky. And of course the bevel or chamfer tool will be perfect because we'd be able to just select this loop and say chamfer, and it's going to turn into something like what I'm about to do the hard way. So basically we'd have this, and then we'd have another one. So I'm just hitting Alt-U to quickly insert a new edge loop. Looks like I got some UVs going a little strange on the left side there, but that's okay. And then manually kind of tweak this to be a curve. So like I was saying, if you're going at this carefully, this probably wouldn't be quite such a pain. I've started this and maybe the wrong way. But yeah, especially once we add that bevel tool, you'll be able to create nice curves a lot more easily. You could also use something like, again, the torus tool to create that curve a bit better. As it is, otherwise, I mean, this might be good just for real simple geometry if it's for something mobile. Once you get those two outer curves in, you can start putting in the inside curves a lot more easily. It's really just the outer ones at first that are a bit of trouble. So that's a pretty good curve already, actually. I'm proud of that. Not bad. You got a bit of a problem. Good. All right, more things breaking. That's good to show. So if you get something like this where the UVs have clearly started to stretch all the way across and gone a little crazy, I'd say just select everything on your object, all the faces, or if they're already done in some special way, just the ones that are broken. Go into your UV editor, convert to manual, and then give it a quick box unwrap and convert back to auto, and that'll usually take care of it. In this case, we can probably just select everything, convert to manual, back to auto, or oops, I didn't need to do that, and just click on world space, and that's going to kind of stick them all together and take care of them a bit more easily. So that's creating a curve. Obviously, you just keep doing that for each of the other corners, and it's going to be a little tedious, but not once we have that super nice bevel and chamfer tool. So that's coming up. You could also take these outside edges, I suppose. Make it look a little prettier just pulling these out. You want to do that all the way around, of course. Give it an edge there or something. Who knows? Let's see. Okay, so that was the basic idea you were looking for, just to add in that curve. Gotta get a separate monitor or laptop for this this chat. Okay, so does that pretty much, that's what you're looking for, Stig? That's good, or should I expand on any part of that, add to it in some way? Okay, cool. Let's see. Reggie was asking for extrude part of one object to another object and get to snap. Can you explain a tad more what you're doing there? Let's see. What I'm guessing was going on was if you had one object and another object, and just tell me if I'm doing wrong here. And maybe you had a face deleted here, and you were trying to pull, say, this one over to it and then connect it. Okay. Yeah, and like John says above, maybe sort of a bridge edge loop thing. If you have two separate objects, like in this case I have one object here and another object here, you won't be able to use the bridge edge loop because they're not one single object. So, and that would really be the easiest way to do it. So for example, I'll Control Z all the way back to here, and I'll delete that face. And we have to merge these two, so I select both objects and click on Merge. I'll just do a merge delete, no need to keep any backups. And then I'll select these faces and just hit Alt-B and just throw a bridge across. You can also select the edges and just hold Shift to extrude them over. Of course, once you do that, those verts aren't welded yet, and that's just to allow people to do a little more complex stuff. But make sure you then select all those edges, or all those verts, and hit Alt-V to make sure and weld them together if you want them to be. Thanks, Mark. You still on there? Let me just read your comment real quick. 7:30 also. Yeah, all these. This will all be saved online according to Google. So we'll have a long video of me stuttering and rambling for an hour or so. It'll all be there. Yeah, let me know a time that works better for you. Everybody as well. Just go ahead and send me an email or Twitter or somehow. Let me know what times work best for people, and I can find you know. Where we can stuff things together for sure. Thanks for watching, Mark. Let's see, Reggie. So the problem is they had different textures. Oh, okay. So it wasn't actually a geometry issue. You were able to get the geometry to come together just fine. Just a quick note on this too. The reason that it came together so nicely here was because I'm using ProGrids also. So if I look at this with a grid on, it's because this grid is making sure that everything is sticking right to that. Just to maybe make that a bit more obvious. So every movement is sticking right to the grid, which really helps to make it easy to move things and make sure they stick exactly together. But your problem was the textures. Sorry again, can you explain a bit more what you mean, how you wanted the textures to come together? So we have okay. I'll just create a ground plane. So like you're saying, we have a floor and we have a wall. Those, yeah, they are on top of each other. Okay. Okay, I see. You wanted the edges to line up. Yeah, the control-click thing. That's exactly it. So we've got these two objects, floor and wall, and we want their edges to line up. So in the UV editor, and actually, you guys are going to catch me with something I'm not sure about right now. I am not sure if we have it set so you can control-click between two objects. I guess we'll find out. So control-click on here. Yeah, so that's just going to select it. What you'll need to do, you can merge these two into a single object. I'll go over a couple different options, I guess, because this might not be ideal. So select your floor, your floor and your wall. If you're having this problem, like you see right now, I select the floor, right, and then I click on the wall here, but Unity sees the floor behind it, and it treats it as if I'm re-clicking on the floor. That's a Unity bug that they haven't figured out yet. Just in case you're wondering why that keeps happening, you have to select the foreground item first and then select the background item. Not our fault, we promise. So anyway, if we merge those two together, select them, click on Merge Objects. I'll just do a Merge Delete. Now I can select this whole control and click, oops, UV Editor, of course. And, oops, no. Okay, that won't work, obviously, because the floor down here, what am I trying to say? The verts don't line up. So it's not able to put them together. I'm going to make a note of that. It should be able to do that. Okay. I'll just type it into my chat window, actually, and I'll remember it. Connect UVs. It should be able to basically just figure that out one way or another. You're right. But I'm onto the right thing. Is that what you're looking for, Reggie? Basically to continue those textures together properly? Because I have a couple more methods I can go over that'll work as well. Oh, okay, so I'm still not right. Oh, to make the verts match up. If I just read up a bit, I'd see that. Okay. Let's see. So I'll close out of that. So your floor, does it have a lot of verts in it, kind of like this one does right now? I'm not sure if that's showing up real well. Or is it just a single flat plane? Okay. All right, so yeah, this will work well. We've got this floor that has extra bits in it, and the wall that's coming down to it, and none of the verts line up. So we want to make them line up without, you know, moving around the verts on the wall. I'm sure you obviously don't want to move that to match. You want to keep it the same. I would say you just need to add a little bit of extra geometry. So a couple of ways to do that would be, let's say the easiest way might be just to grab the faces where the wall is connecting. So in this case, it's these faces. Sorry, I'll stop moving around the editor so quickly. I do that automatically. So again, all of these faces I'm going to select. And we need to add some extra cuts in there so that we can place new verts so the wall can connect. So select them and then just scale. I hold Shift and scale in one direction. And what I'm going to do is basically an inset, which is another tool we'll be adding on hopefully by 2.5.1, maybe a little bit after since Bevel is taking a bit more than expected. But we're basically going to do an inset. So I hold Shift and then I pulled in just one axis, and then I'll pull another axis without holding Shift. Otherwise I would do a double extrude or a double inset. So now we have a little bit of extra geometry I can move around to fit. And basically at this point I'm just going to grab each of the verts, hold down V on the keyboard, and move them, oops, to match. So it should snap. What is Unity doing here? It should snap over. That's odd. Okay. Basically, I'm just, come on, Unity, or maybe us. It's probably us here. Well, luckily, again, I can just, since it's ProGrids, I don't actually have to use the built-in snap functionality, which can be a little funky. I can just move these, and I know because everything is on the grid, I know that they're going to the right location without having to worry about it. And it looks like I hid these verts on myself a little too far on the inside. Go into wireframe mode. Pull these out to match. As I'm doing this, I'm realizing there actually are simpler ways even than this. I might not have showed the best option. I'll show those too, maybe. So now I've matched those up. I can go in and delete these extra faces. Oh, I'd already merged these. That'll teach me to pay attention while I'm working. Okay, anyway, Reggie, I'm still going on the right thing, right? This is pretty much what you're having trouble with? Oh, they're not on the grid? Okay. Oh, okay, just to make a vertex snap to another vertex. Yeah, definitely. It's just what I was kind of showing there and what sometimes doesn't seem to work correctly. It's something that I know we got to take a little bit of work at. But basically, select any vertex that you want to snap. For example, this object here, and then we turn off my grid, and I'll move this off the grid. So now now the grid is no longer an option. I'll move this one off as well. So we know we're not using the grid to babysit us here. So you have your two objects that aren't on the grid. Just grab a vertex, hold down V, and you can snap it to any other vertex. All the way over there, or here, etc. What it should also do, but seems to be a little finicky on, is if you hold V and then click on just one of the direction arrows, and now it's working, it'll snap only on that axis. So right now I'm snapping just on the x-axis, which is really useful. Maybe if I just wanted this to float over that, but not actually to go down on the Y to touch it. Or if you just click in the very center where that you can kind of see there's a real faint box that Unity creates by holding V, then it's going to snap on all three axes at once. And again, otherwise I can just hold V and use just a single axis at once. Is that what you were looking for then? It took us quite a few steps to get there. Yep. Yeah, as John's saying, you can definitely move the whole object too. Yep. So just hover your mouse over any vertex or corner on the object, hold V, and it'll move it right to that. So that's really useful. Does that work? Yeah, that won't work using just an axis. Unity restricts it, unfortunately. Maybe we can customize that somehow. So holding V only works on an object if you're clicking right onto that pivot point, or onto the corner or vertex. yeah, voice chat helps. I guess you were having problems where it was bouncing your audio back at you. Oh, maybe because you're using speakers and a mic at the same time. Probably that. Is that what it was? Just to check, Reggie. Maybe we can hint that to other people in the future. Try and use a headset or something. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Good question on that one. We went through some things we didn't really need to, but I think they were good stuff. Good things anyway. All right. Well, I've still got time. Anything else anybody wanted to question on that I can show here how to work through or fix or build? It's always awkward with just text chat. I feel like a teacher staring at a classroom of students, staring back, saying nothing. I'm assuming everyone is just busy typing a lot, or maybe not. Maybe they're just typing lol. All right. Well, maybe that's good for the first session. Yeah, that's true. At least I can see on the icons everyone's mic is off. I'll get a webcam in the future too, so that it can be even more awkward, I guess, at least for me. Cool. Well, I'll build up, I guess, more of a lesson plan for the upcoming 7 o'clock real classroom. But this has been great. Thanks, everybody. I see it actually works pretty well to just go off specific requests. Maybe I'll do that even more than trying to have some sort of lesson plan. I think that's more often anyway what people want is just how do I do this or that. So we'll do a bit of both for sure. Cool. All right. If anybody has comments or something, definitely let me know. Probably best via Twitter on that link if you want to comment. Yeah, I can install a tool that shows the press short keys There's got to be one of those out there somewhere, I'm sure. I think I've seen it before. But yeah, drop me comments. Let me know how it went. If you do it on Twitter, obviously it helps spread the word for us so other people know about it. Otherwise, write on a YouTube video or something like that. This will all be uploaded, available on our YouTube channel. Reggie, yeah, to make it full screen, I'm pretty sure there's a poof somewhere. Just in the upper right, the usual. Oh, it doesn't make it full screen. Ooh, look at that, mirroring forever. I'm not sure if there's another way to make it full screen. Let's minimize that chaos. Yeah, F11 might do it. I think there's some other ways. But okay, cool. Thanks a bunch, guys. I gotta head out, and I'll see some of you at 7 o'clock maybe. Hopefully other new people as well. Yeah, no problem. It's fun. It's good. I like being able to jump in and directly address issues that otherwise, forums and documentation. That's a terrible way of figuring things out. Well, the forums are great, but not as good. Cool. Well, thanks a bunch, everyone. I'll see you in a future broadcast for sure. Have a good day, or night, morning, whatever it might be.